Welcome, Tats. So, if you would tell us who you are, where you live, what kind of work you do, and let's take it from there.
Sure, no problem. I'm in Vancouver, BC, Canada. My name is Tatsuya Nakagawa, but I like it when people call me Tats because it's simpler. And for myself, I have a company called Castagra. We founded 11 years ago, and it specializes in manufacturing sustainable coatings, particularly roof coatings. So sustainability is near and dear to my heart, and that's how we know each other, Ron.
Yeah, amazing, cool, awesome. Yeah, it's been an interesting how we connected, and just amazing how all these different parts, parallel paths, kind of cross, right? So hey, would you so people get to know you a little bit? Tell one thing about yourself that most people wouldn't know.
Wow, most people wouldn't know. I think, well, most people do not know that I used to play a little bit of chess for fun, and I like strategy. So I thought, you know what? Chess is the ultimate game of strategy. So I'm not a good hobby person. It gets really kind of intense. Like I'll start, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna fiddle around with it a bit. And it started to get really intense, and I started overdoing it. So I started getting a little sick because I would sort of agonize over these decisions. So I realized some things that you kind of like for work and stuff, a hobby sometimes maybe not so much. So I don't usually talk about that, but I did give chess a try, and it hurt my brain more than anything. So I'm gonna stay away from it. But chess is really popular right now because of Netflix and that TV show. So
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, and I'm a mediocre player at best, but I did love playing with my kids, and my son in particular got into it. And he was a youth champion for a while, which
oh,
was always fun.
wonderful.
So yeah, it was great. So it's definitely a great strategy game, no doubt. And then if you really want to you have your mind boggled, try 3D chess sometime.
Ooh, 3D chess. Oh man, that's gonna really hurt my head. So if I really want to punish myself, that's what I should do, right?
Yeah, pretty much, man. I'll tell you, just it just makes your whole mind go crazy. So I guess if you're a Vulcan, Mr. Spock, you can handle it. But other than that, I don't know, man, how people do it. It's amazing. So
Oh man, I like to keep things simple, so
yeah,
that's
me
my
too.
thing.
Yeah, me too. So give me two dimensions is about all I can handle, right? Well, we ask sometimes to start off with a quantum quote. Do you have an inspirational quote you'd like to share with folks?
Inspirational quote. Well, I mean, one of the quotes that I like is escape competition through authenticity. So I come from a marketing background, and there's just so many things that you can do to approach positioning and how your product or idea that you want to share with the world. And I think the easiest thing to remember is if you can sort of figure out who you are and find a way to double down on that and be effective, that's the best way. So it's kind of a nice reminder because there's all these marketing things or all these sort of change management or innovation things where you're like kind of have to kind of fit into a mold, and I feel like sometimes you could do it, but long term you might not be very happy. So it's just a nice reminder for myself not to overdo it on that stuff and just be yourself.
Be yourself, authenticity. Nice, excellent. So why did you get into this whole thing, Tats? What motivates you?
What motivates me? I think one of the things that motivates me is I love new ideas, great ideas. And I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I knew I needed help. And one of the early things that I did was look for a mentor. And I was very, very fortunate. A friend of mine introduced me to a guy named Peter Rosen, and he was an inventor type. He invented the Windows Media Player. He sold it to Bill Gates. He did some early work on 3D printing technology, and he also invented a technology that later sort of partially inspired the MRI. So here's a guy that's making the world a better place. And I remember he had in his wallet, this was before it was cool to talk about sustainability and making the world better, But one of the things he had on his criteria for the projects that he would take on was, would this project make the world a better place? And one of the earlier businesses that I started was a product and innovation agency. We would look at all sorts of new types of products or innovations, and we'd help launch them. In the beginning, I was really sort of interested in the mechanics of all that. But after I started to do a bunch of these things, I started to really question what I was promoting. Like, even if someone came and say, "Hey, I want to, promote this plastic thing," like I would look at it and go, "Does the world really need another one of these?" And I really started to sort of raise my awareness on what we are doing and what we want to leave as a legacy. And I started to think more long term about it. And sort of this company we have now that we've been at, over 10 years, was sort of a project that was based on an innovation which my business partner developed by accident, which many great innovations do happen by accident. And it was sustainable, plant based, and it would allow sort of tons of this toxic chemicals to be displaced out of infrastructure protection and corrosion protection industries. So we pursued it, and yeah, it's been an up and down thing, but it's been great. So that's what kind of drives me. It's like there's just so many ways of earning living or achieve prosperity. It's just finding alignment between that with what is good for the world is extremely important to me, and that's the type of people I love to keep company with.
Outstanding. So tell us about this product, this plant-based product that displaces tons of toxic chemicals, and what does it do, and where do you put it, and who has it on, who's using it right now?
Sure, sure. So it's castor oil based. So castor oil grows very easily. It's drought resistant, and then it's naturally occurring gypsum, or if you want, you can try to use recycled gypsum. And there's a few other ingredients. It's not perfect because there's supply chain things and stuff, but it's a huge step forward in terms of eliminating a lot of these toxic chemicals used to protect infrastructure. So, for instance, water and wastewater. So, we're drinking water safe. So, inside manholes, clarifiers, million-gallon tanks, or on top of roof, extending the life of roofs, on factory floors, protecting concrete. So, these are very, very large areas that need protection, and help sort of, you know, keep some of the waste out of the landfills by extending the life of the product and making it infinitely repairable or extendable. So yeah, that's what it does.
So, okay, so this is a plant-based substance that you spread onto a roof or onto a factory floor or onto the inside of a pipe or onto an inside of a tank. And by doing that, basically it's a sealant. So it becomes it can be on a roof. The best, easiest for me to deal with is a flat roof where you have all these different types of things on flat roofs. And a lot of them are, what is it, tar and rocks? Is that what a lot of flat roofs have on it? What do you call that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's different types of materials that are on the roof, right? So there's asphalt, gravel. There's different types of, they call them single ply, and and otherwise. And when they get to a certain point, you have to rip everything off and put new stuff on. And what ours allows you to do is just coat over top of it and extend the life of the roof, and that saves the client money, and then also it's just better for the environment in general. So I think I'm big on sustainability things in which the economics are in line. I know early on in sort of the innovation cycle for some of these products, you get into a situation where it just costs more because they're just not economies of scale, or certain things about the technology are not developed. But there's only so much guilting people to use things, because obviously people have to provide for their families. So I love the gold standard of striving for the economic piece to be in line. And then I think you can approach mass adoption. So I'm loving that a lot of these sustainable technologies are getting closer and closer, if not better in terms of economics, without subsidies and stuff like that. So I'm really encouraged by that.
Yeah, so your product basically is a roof repair, roof replacement, roof sealant type of product. So
Absolutely.
on a flat roof, so many multifamily buildings have flat roofs. Many retail and other types of factories have flat roofs. And on anybody that's got a flat roof, basically, you take your substance. What do you call it? What's the name
It's
for
called Ecodur.
it? Ecodur.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you basically put it on, and it kind of fills in the gaps and then seals the roof. And it can be white, right? So that way it's got the reflective properties, which helps with air conditioning and other forms of heated roofs, right?
Absolutely. We have a two-layer system right now that works really well. I think cool roofs are extremely important in terms of energy reduction and management. And I think it's good to see the adoption in the area. But I think, yeah, it's wonderful that more and more, property managers and owners are embracing those technologies.
So you put on Ecodur. It can be a cool roof substance. It reflects the heat, so therefore it's good on an energy saving perspective. And then how long does it last, and how competitive a price is it compared to other options out there for building owners?
Yeah, for us, I mean the quick answer is it depends. We're because it's a better product, it's not, cheaper in every situation, but it's definitely the ROI on it is extremely high, and surfaces that are extremely difficult to coat, like, uneven surfaces or stuff that has issues in terms of adhesion, we would be extremely economical for a property owner or property manager to work towards.
Great. And then inside pipes is coatings and such, and inside tanks. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
we have those applications too. I mean, and it's been successfully used. We focus a lot of our time on the roofing piece and the flooring piece. Now, one of the hard lessons I learned, because we had that agency, we launched a lot of products, is when you have a great innovation, and this is the dilemma of anyone that has a great innovation that can change the world and do all these fancy things, is that when you go out there, you start getting pulled in all sorts of directions. Oh, can it do this? Can it do that? And in the beginning, we made the mistake, or I'll speak for myself. I made the mistake. We said too many yeses, and we got into some wonderful places, and that's great. But there's two parts of this. Is one is can you get in, and the second thing is can you stay in? And you know there are competitors, so sure you may be able to get in, sneak in, you're a smaller company, right, trying to get adoption, but you really have to think of how your customer service, how your ongoing competitive advantage are, or how you're going to support that, because a larger company that is trying to meet their 10% thing and their shareholders and whatever, they're going to go SWAT and then knock you out. And that's what happened early on. We got into some wonderful places, and then we either got in our own way in terms of inadequately preparing for the support requirements and in the convenience factors that our competitors had, or we would factor in other things in terms of what's the second act. And I think for anyone that's innovating in this space, you always want to think about execution. So it's better to come in narrow and focused, and then later expand out to sort of fill that need. And it's tough for entrepreneurs because they're thinking big and they want to change the world right away. And you have to think narrow and small to grow faster. And it's kind of a counterintuitive thought, and it's hard to sink in for people. And I kind of knew this, but we made the mistake as well, because you just get the excitement of all the people that are coming around you, and you kind of get pulled in different directions.
all right. So now with this technology, this roofing technology, so again, you come in, it's an uneven roof, it's got adhesion problems, whatever else. Now you're taking your plant-based substance, you're putting it on the roof. It's kind of like an epoxy in some ways, right? It goes down, seals the roof, gives you this great reflective coating. How long does it last before somebody's got to do something with it?
Well, I mean, it depends on the condition of the roof and what was there before, but I think, if it's 10 or 15 years or 20-year life extension, it's not unreasonable. We've had our product out in the field for 30 years, which is a nice coincidence because it was invented accidentally back in the day, and there was nothing done with it other than some commercial trials and different applications. So usually with these type of products, there's the industry is fairly risk adverse, and there's a joke in the coating industry, which is if you want to go broke, start doing bridge coatings because bridge coatings take forever to get approved because it's a very bureaucratic and in some parts rightfully, but you really have to understand that you can do 300 lab tests, which many of these big companies do, but they don't usually know till about year 8, year 10 if they're doing a good job because it's impossible to simulate the things that happen in the world, right? You could put it through weatherometer tests where they can accelerate aging with UV and water and stuff like that, but real world results is tough to beat.
All right. So, okay. So let's say now we've got your product. It's great. It's plant based as opposed to all these toxic chemicals that are out there. We're putting them on roofs, putting them elsewhere. How do you see the rest of the sustainability kind of evolving in the world? Is it based on plants and recycling? Or, and obviously, I'm a clean energy guy. So, but I'm just curious about your view on the future and how we're going to move to a sustainable planet.
Wow, I mean, there's many pieces of that, but I think from a material standpoint, I feel that there is still a huge opportunity to look at what nature has done and try to leverage stuff or learning from nature and use that as the basis of future materials. Ours is based on castor oil. It's kind of a living plant, and I think that the technology shift has gone towards sort of processed solutions, but I feel like there's a huge untapped area where you use naturally occurring substances to replace these very toxic chemicals.
Yeah, and I guess you could see, I mean, one of the greatest example I think is the spider web, right, which has incredible strength and just that little thing that comes out of a spider, it's got more strength than a carbon fiber pretty much. So it's pretty amazing, right? So that's just one example and your technology is another. All right, so what do you think we need to do more of and what's in the way and what can we do?
Wow, what do we need to do more of? I think it all comes down to education and just, I guess, like what you're doing, right? You're going out there, you're talking to people and educating, and the tools are there. So what I hate most is when bad ideas or things that are bad for the world wins because of great execution, great marketing, or strategy. So I always want to be on the side of the best idea. And I think for us, I think we need to be able to sort of look at things critically and talk, have these conversations and try to figure out, because I know for me it's a little complicated sometimes too, like is something really sustainable, or is the links in the chain sort of add up to something that is actually worse? Like, is there a knee jerk reaction we're doing on something because of some media story, or are we looking at it from like a higher point of view and thinking strategically? So I think the tools are there. I feel like there's enough people passionate about it. I think what you're doing and taking leadership on it and stuff like that is the key. So if there's anyone sitting at home, one of your listeners, and thinking, what can I do? Well, there's a lot you can do, and the tools are available to start spreading that message and educating yourself and educating others.
So, all right, let's go into one thing that you think that people should know, a tool, a tactic that most people should know, need to know, but don't yet. So, give us one example.
One tactic. Which area do you want that tactic? Do you
Wherever
want?
one you want, buddy. So,
All right, one tactic. Okay, well, let's say we're currently working at home, and everyone's trying to get used to networking and online networking. Some people are very comfortable with it. Some people are not. And one of the things that I guess I want to tell people, some people want to know, how do I grow my network very quickly? And I'm an introvert too, and I've gotten more comfortable as it goes along. And when I was starting out as an entrepreneur, I was, when we're in a gathering and stuff like that, or in a group, like could be a Zoom call, it was kind of awkward to kind of randomly reach out to people and do small talk. And I find that the best way you can grow your network is you connect with people that are natural connectors. And then you fill your network with those people. That's step one. Step two, of course, you're not doing it to gain something, but these people you genuinely like, you spend a lot of time giving value to those people, right? Those 30 people or however many you determine that are gonna that add value to your life in many different ways. But you go there and you give, and then what you'll find is those people will, in the future, you won't expect anything, be able to give you a lot of access or introductions or opportunities to get your message out there. So that's kind of a simplified thing, but I think in terms of the online tools, it allows you to identify people who share your interests and are great communicators and all these things. So if all this stuff doesn't come naturally to you, gravitate to those people and give them tons of value. And also every once in a while, rightfully so, you can drop an ask. So that is my tip.
That's a fantastic tip. So identify people who are connectors, who are out there doing things, reach them, obviously have a shared interest that is real, but then give them a lot of value. And eventually, when you need to, you have an ask, and there's a way to connect and build. Fantastic advice. Thank you, Tats. All right. So, a lot of us entrepreneur types have gone through some down times, and it was during those darkest days that we came to some realization that often turned everything around. And just was wondering if you'd care to share your darkest moment and what you learned from it.
Wow. Okay. So my before I became an entrepreneur, my education was in kinesiology. So I was a personal trainer. Uh, we did health and fitness events and conferences, and I was like a GM for a fitness facility. So I know a lot about health and fitness, or at least I should know a lot about health and fitness. But being an entrepreneur, what happens? There's always something to do. There's always worry about revenue or customers or something. And you work, and that stuff starts to go in the background. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was in Victoria, which is sort of a Vancouver Island, and this was a holiday, and this is outside my normal routine. And I remember going to tie my shoelaces, and I felt a pain in my stomach, and it kind of freaked me out because it kind of hurt. And when I came back from vacation, I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, basically, the long and short of it is your body is falling apart. I was 252 pounds. I put it in context. I'm 5'11. That's quite overweight. And it gave me a huge wake up call. Like, what have I been doing? I can't play the ignorance card. I know better. And it just woke me up. And I started to, like, I'm a foodie, just said, you know what? I have to start eat healthier, or else I'm not going to be around for my kids. I'm not going to be able to play with them. And I started to make those small changes, those tough changes. And as I was doing that, I started to get momentum. So small changes every day, and I started to lose some serious weight. And over a 8-month period, roughly, I lost about 80 pounds. And when I was going through that, and I was, a few months in, and I could see the momentum building, I was like, I've avoided this uncomfortable conversation with myself this long. What other uncomfortable conversation have I not been having with myself? And I start to identify all these things, which I felt my shoulders going up when I think about it, or anxiety. Like that's a good litmus test if that's an area you're trying to avoid. And there's certain things about my understanding of marketing and entrepreneurship that wasn't up to par. So I start to systematically say, if I can do this one thing, what's stopping me from doing this over here? And I started to sort of run towards things that were afraid that I did not like, were afraid of. And I realized once I got through the initial kind of little bit of awkwardness, I started to knock those down. And I was like, this is kind of fun. I'm going to keep doing this. And it's been sort of a 3-year journey where I keep looking for the next thing. And I don't know how to recreate that in other people, but I feel like people have another gear. Like for instance, I heard this story where there was a guy in the states that was working on his car. So he's underneath the car, and then the jack somehow slipped. Super unlucky, and then the car lands on him. And then at the same time, I think the jack knocks something over and starts a fire in the garage. So he's pinned underneath the car, and then the garage is starting to light up on fire. And he's struggling, like, whatever he can do to sort of get out, and he can't. He's pinned. And he's starting to get engulfed in flames. And he's just counting the seconds, right? Like, I'm a goner. And then, just then, his daughter was walking outside the house and sees the garage up in flames. And then she bolts in. She's 18 years old, skinny, and sees her dad underneath the car without a second thought, runs up there, picks the car up, and frees the dad. Amazing. I know you probably heard this story on YouTube or something, but why is she able to do that? Well, it's because inside of each and every one of us, we have this brilliance, this untapped ability to make an impact. And my question is, how do we get that out of ourselves? Like, how do we say, forget about you, fear, right? Like, I don't care. I don't want to regret, when I'm sort of at the end of the line, at what I did. And part of that is the impact on the earth and what we leave behind, and also what we want to achieve while we're still here. And I feel like every time I feel like I'm getting a little conservative, like, I can't do that, what do people think? I think, come on, let's lift that car and let's try to do something amazing. So I try to hold myself accountable, and I try to hang around people that will openly call me out if I start going in the wrong direction.
Outstanding. So would you consider that your aha moment then?
Sure, it's one of my aha moments for sure.
And is there another one you care to share?
That one is good enough for today, Ron.
That's great. All right, no worries. All right. A pulsar round. This is where we ask you short, succinct, amazing, and we're looking for mind-blowing answers, sir.
Oh
Are
my
you
goodness.
ready?
I'll try my best.
All right, great. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Wow, I got to go back to just be yourself and execute.
Outstanding. One of the personal habits that contributes to your success.
I have a good way of just working into routines and working out of routines. So I'm good with change.
And is there a particular way of dealing with change that you'd like to share?
That you know what, I think that some of that comes naturally, but within organizational change, I think I have patience. Like, when I'm instituting change, I know that change doesn't happen at once. I identify a key group of supporters and bring them in closely and create a change SWAT team, and we go out together. So I'm patient with it. Probably is why it works.
Patience always amazing, right? So, yeah, water will wear away any substance whenever the
There
temperature
you go. I
rises,
love
right?
that.
Yeah, that's always a good one, right? All right, an internet resource you'd like to share with people.
Wow, internet resource. There's a ton, but I use something called Text Expander. It's shortcut clips and snippets. There's different ways you can do that, but it just saves so many keystrokes if you're typing certain types of emails and stuff like that.
Text expander, eh?
Yeah,
Wonderful. All right, a book you'd like to recommend to people.
I like what's that book called? The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Have you heard that one?
I have. Yeah, it's a great
I
one.
like that.
You
It's
like that?
good.
Excellent. The Big Leap. Outstanding. All right, Tats, if you could had a magic wand and you could wave it and change one thing for everybody in the world, what would it be?
Wow. One thing I think one thing is if people can get over their number one fear.
Everyone get over their number one fear. Nice. Awesome. Yeah, that would solve a lot of problems, wouldn't it? All right. So, this is a part of the show that we deal with extreme weather events because there are more and more of those as we continue to saturate the environment with
Yeah.
tons of greenhouse gases. So, we call this the WTF or F section, weather time fudge, an extreme weather event, and tell us the tale and how you lived through it. Or weather time fun, the most fun you've ever had and the type of weather it was. Take a choice and let us know. Tell us a story, please.
Wow. Weather and fun.
Or fudge at extreme weather events, which is part of what we're highlighting. So,
Yeah, that's a good question. Have I gone through? I mean, when I think of elements and weather and nature, I think of when I used to sail. I think that when you sail, you get a great respect for the elements because it's there's so much variable. And I remember taking sailing lessons, and we used to go on these boats where you have to kind of hike out to kind of counterbalance the boats, and things can go bad very quickly with the weather, like even if you're paying attention. So we had some moments where uh, weather events change very very quickly, and it totally freaked us out. But doing things like sailing gives you a great respect for nature and how small we really are in the world.
yeah, no doubt about it. And actually, one of my extreme weather events is about a tornado and how the weather was
Oh,
that day and sailing and how it was a quiet sailing day with no wind. And then all of a sudden the wind would come up and I'd be holding on for dear life and the sails would be vibrating and it'd be demonic. And then all of a sudden, boom, it would stop and then it would be very quiet and calm and peaceful. And it was like that all day long, big shifts. And since that time and since that tornado, I got very aware that when you have these big changes in weather in the same day where you have this sunny, cloudy, windy, calm, those are the times to watch out because there's some type of extreme weather event going on around you and it may come too close to call. So
yeah, for
anyway,
sure.
yeah, interesting time, right? So yeah, weather is incredible and extreme wind and that type of weather is amazing. And you're right about sailing. All right. Well, what's one thing you're most energized about today?
I like your interview style. Your format is awesome. Your commitment to quality is awesome, and I'm just glad that we connected through a you know super connector, right? Nate's a kind of a super connector guy that we've got along really well. So I'm really glad the introduction and your energy on this is awesome. So I'm glad we
Thanks, Tats.
connected.
But besides me, thank you for all that. That was wonderful. That's great. I really appreciate it. But besides me, before you met me, what else are you energized about in the world? What's going on? I mean, what are you excited about that's happening, man?
Well, I think with all the work from home stuff, there's a lot of bad things that happen. But one of the great things that happen is I feel our ability to connect with different people with great ideas all around the world has gotten better because I've always loved technology. And I started my podcast a while ago, and I remember just it was just hard getting people on the phone, and they were dialing in, and the quality was horrible, and he's like taking the call from the airport, and you hear like the airport announcer in the background, and now most people know how to use video. A lot of people have better equipment, and you know I'm sitting on calls where there's thought leaders from all over the world on a Zoom call and sharing ideas. I'm like, wow, the world got so much smaller in a good way, and then also the need to travel and burn fossil fuels to do that is the threshold is higher. Like people will be like, you know what, I don't want to drive over there. I'm just gonna do Zoom, and every once in a while, when there's a really good reason, I'm gonna actually physically, create a carbon footprint and do something so in a big way. So I kind of really like that. It's really fast, and yeah, of course it could get wearing on you, but the upside is you just get to meet and develop relationship with amazing people from all over the world in a much more efficient and effective way.
So the silver lining in the COVID cloud is this ability to use technology to connect with people we never would before, and that also slows down our need to commute and to drive and travel everywhere to meet people, because now we're just doing it over the internet, which is pretty incredible. Nice, nice, Tat. Very cool. All right. Grand finale, a piece of parting advice you'd like to share, and the best way for people to reach you if you'd like them to connect.
Absolutely. I think my LinkedIn page is probably fairly good. I have a website called tatstalks.com as well that you can sort of message me through there as well. So I'm always open to connecting with like-minded people that are making a difference, regardless if it's relevant to our business or not. So I just like sharing ideas with people that are making change.
Wonderful. And parting advice?
Parting advice is you have each one of us has an amazing ability to make an impact on the world. There's tons of great tools to help you do that. Don't be too proud to ask for help, and don't compare yourself to people further along your way and get discouraged. Everyone has some struggle they're going through. Nobody is perfect. And the key is just to focus on the next step.
Outstanding.